Well, thank you. It's been a really nice morning. Bijesh and his team have really done a nice job. You never know with Zoom conferences how it's going to go sometime, and it's really been very, very well done, Bijesh. Thank you for this privilege. This group, several of you on the session. It's not a matter of convincing you to do soil health. This is a different audience. So we presented many times, about 3 or 4 of us across the state since we submitted this to the governor. So I won't assume you know that the report, what's happened last year and a half, but I'm not going to go into soil health, the rationale. We're going to get into more the nuts and bolts, the so what, how does it help with the Panhandle. My wife is from Scottsbluff, their farm and ranch. She's been gone there for a long time, is by Lake Minnetonka. I grew up in central Nebraska, but I went to Imperial in 1978. The Panhandle and Southwest Nebraska are very dear to all of us and important. My hats, I have 4 hats. I was a member of the Health Soils Task Force. We have a small farm east of Lincoln. My 3rd year in the Nebraska Natural Resource Commission. That's the Water Sustainability Fund. And then this is my 9th year on the NEMA NRD. I've been on the exec board, and I was elected chair last month, 2 months ago. So what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. You've had many good presentations, and I'll try to complement what I heard the various presenters go this morning and not be redundant. I'm going to talk real briefly what this task force is and we hope to accomplish. I'm going to zero right in on the Panhandle. Bijesh asked me to be very clear with your neck of the woods. And then third, when we wrap up today, what are the next steps and possibilities? Bijesh, can you tell me when I bet like 5-7 minutes away, if you don't mind?
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about soil health. You've heard much, and you got some great speakers coming. I'm not going to get real in depth into who and why we focus on, and I'm not going to go real in depth across the nation. We spent a lot of time, but I'm going to hold off on those 3, and I can talk afterwards if you'd like. Okay, pure and simple. Why have many of us busted our rears to try to get something going in Nebraska? And it's been as challenging as we knew it would be. We want to get a state hub and proving grounds. You're one of them. We just talked about the 6 MLRAs. We want to focus on that, how it ties to what's already in place. In all frankness, we would be the 40th state. We're behind other states. Kansas just kicked theirs off in November. Missouri did theirs 2 months ago. Pennsylvania did theirs last month. And Vermont, or Virginia rather, just reintroduced theirs last month. Okay, we talk a lot about EQIP and CSP. We had our local working group meetings 2 weeks ago. A lot of the producers across state participating. Yesterday was state technical meeting. We knew EQIP dollars are going down. We were shocked how much EQIP dollars are going down. Pure and simple, there's not enough money for EQIP. There's got to be other things that support producers. Only 3% of Nebraska's acres, only 7% were funded for the CSP. And this year alone, there's going to be less than 24% dollars than last year. For my NRD, that's close to 300,000 in 1 year. Plus the Water Sustainability Fund, that group, we have over 200,000 less. So at the end of the day, which people do we truly want to impact? Is it those that are on this call? Or is it those that know, but don't know a lot about it and want to be involved? Okay, so a couple of years ago, the bill was passed 43-0. This spring, after a year and a half of work, we submitted the report to the governor. It was voted on the Unicameral Ag Committee. It was passed 7-0. Next week, Keith Burns. Keith couldn't be here today. He's in Kansas for a conference that they're setting up. We've set up to present to several senators and staffers. We believe the urban senators. Second, we believe the rural water people. And third, we believe the rural senators with water problems are the top priority. It's never really been about soil health. It's always been about water quality and quantity. And that's why you guys are critical. The floor debate is going to be scheduled. We are asking for a precedence. Normally, they don't vote on resolutions till the end of the session, but we've had several meetings and we're hopeful we'll get through that sooner than later. Okay, basically 17 people. You'll know several of the people in there. In all honesty, we only had one Western Nebraska. There was a gap on our committee. Ron Bolts was exceptional, Graceland Coalition. He did a lot of the livestock area there, but we have a gap from your area that we needed that. Steve Tucker's down by Venango, did a great job. Okay, if you want to go more in detail, here is the report. I put it there, and I'm sure after this, BJS will share websites. The overall report is listed except there are 28 letters. And then if you look under here, the plus signs, that's where our minutes are, if you want to look at them. Okay, we worked very, very hard to get input from 31 groups. And then we went back this January and February and hit up, again, many NRDs. And we had very clear consensus, but there was 5 to 6 groups that we'll talk about that have been a challenge. Okay, DNR come out with a new map the end of December. It was too late for us to put in it, but if you've not gone to DNR, you can pull this up. It's a brand new web page. Every one of these 18,000 wells, you can dynamically look at the change in the last 25 years. So we had several groups that did not want us to put anything about water in this report. So we were not going to go along with that. And so basically, if you pull it up, you can see you in the Panhandle where you're at. And then you can see across the state. But pure and simple, we have tremendous water quality issues that are not being addressed. And when you pull up each individual well, you can go to DNR. It's an amazing website update. You can track every one of your wells. For example, my wife and I, we can't put a well in. We're lucky 400 feet, but we have no opportunities to put a well in. And you can see across the state. So hold that thought. Then right below that, you know we need water. We're lucky for the most part. But point source water is really critical as we look at it. Okay, Bijesh, and I've never met his assistant, Saran. I'm not mispronouncing that, Bijesh. We did 7 conferences. Bijesh, I just took 3 of them. I took 3 of them that were easiest to defend for today. Okay, we asked them 3 things: incentives, disincentives, and nutrients. So just for a brief, I want to show you producer's input, what we did before we made recommendations. Hickman, Randy Pryor, before he retired, had almost 300 people. Broken Bow, Rich Russell, we're missing, that's actually about tripled. We've got hard copies. And then Meade, several of us helped with Keith Gluen. That actually is not the right figure. We didn't put it in there. That had close to 200. Okay, what's the top thing for the pressing obstacles? These are all what you guys are all pretty much used to. You can kind of see what's there. Mostly it's labor and having the time to do it. Okay, so when we aggregated that there together, I won't get too far in depth to this. Hopefully you can read this. I tried to zoom it in. You can see this window and later crop harvest comes up. It was consistent, and then livestock is critical. Weather issues, and you can see that's going to be a problem this year, also is up there. So you can see this is pretty much what you'd expect. Livestock, the window of when you put them in, and weather issues was top. The incentives, most of us think is money, equip, private, carbon credits, what drives people. If I can make more dollars, better for my new generation, SOM, crop insurance, water infiltration, and then a couple more, erosion, weeds, so forth. Again, these are all pretty standard, what we're all pretty used to, which you're probably sure of. So now what did they say from these 3 groups? So keep in mind, Hickman's eastern Nebraska, Broken Rose, maybe Sand Hills up that way. And again, that number's doubled. And Meade is going to be all across the state, but most central. Okay, This strikes exactly to what would be pertinent to Panhandle. And be just, as we looked at it, be just also had a group is consistent. But if you look at the top here, you can see there's not a level of significance. Water, erosion, there's not too many behind that are not priorities. Surprisingly, see this here in discounted crop insurance rates? That really surprised us. And the one that really surprised us is my landlord wants me to. That really surprised us when we looked at that. Okay, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to summarize what we saw from our 17 members from our state, what we saw when we contacted over 30 states, and what we saw personally as we talked to other people. First, it's never ever been about soil health. It was very obvious. We tried to change the goals to put in water quality, but you could tell some people did not want any hint of water in the report other than generically through soil health. So we're not sure if we did the right decision there. NRDs and water managers over and over know they have to do a better job. There's 7 NRDs that have nitrate issues. As many of you know, we have severe water issues in the state and they're getting worse. Some are better, but I know for my NRD, we spend all kinds of money on rural water. Economics, economics, economics. We're going to talk a little bit. We talk about economics, and we've had very good presenters today, but you notice we don't have a whole lot of systems enterprises. And so we've been pushing UNL hard, and they know they've got to do better, and they've been great, but we've got to have better numbers. UNL, NRCS, Extension, you name it, all of us. We have to have a better game plan. The key influencers. When we talk about who makes the influences, we're really not tapping the 2,000, 3,000 acre people. We're really talking about people that maybe we don't know if we're in main education. With Zoom, over and over, producers told us they're tired of field days. They want to get in person. They're tired of demos because a lot of those people who have demos are getting extra monies. I need to know that it can work. The oscillations, Paul come up with this term, and I love this term, Paul. If you look at what's going on, sorry, I turned my phone off, sorry. Sorry about that, I didn't turn my phone off. We have to turn our crop insurance levels to 15. Right now, it's pretty dumb if you don't do corn and beans. Corn is like 347 or 437 rather, and beans are close to 12. We are not going to change diverse rotations until we have a better way with crop insurance. Urban is driving the changes. When Keith and I presented at the Unicameral, we had 2 urban centers come talk to us, and Charlie Shapiro is helping us. So we're going to be setting up sessions with urban centers who want to know about water and soil health. We have a very tough challenge in the state. We've got several groups. Yesterday at the State Technical Committee, Aaron handled this well. We have 5 to 6 groups that think everything is all right. We just have a better PR. And then we have many other people who don't feel comfortable speaking up politically. Bazille Creek could take 50 years to have noticeable change. We are not getting things changed the way they need to be. The last, and this is what I'll get your feedback on in a little bit, are we really impacting the real producers and grazers? I know when I talk to my family at Imperial, we look at them, there's never enough moisture. We saw the figures this morning. We're in a drought. It's pretty hard to convince people to do cover crops when you're in a drought. So this is probably the most important slide. If you get anything from here in your neck of the woods, what you use, these are the ones we talked across the nation over 18 months of work. We don't have answers for all of them. And there's still some of them a challenge. Okay, we've talked about this a little bit. Economics, non-operating landlords, rotations. One I would add to that is we need to change our education model. Field days really are not as effective. With Zoom and other things, many people told us they want a better way to learn. Who are some of the leading states? Okay, we checked with many, many states, and there's 22 of us involved across the nation in a project with the soil health leaders of many states. We meet once a month. New York has an outstanding roadmap. How we formatted ours, how we set things. If you Google New York's soil roadmap, it's outstanding. They work with Cornell, which is Rodell and Organic. They do a tremendous job with policy. And this January, they pumped through quite a bit of money for soil health. Indiana, Craig Derrickson has always been pushing us for this. We've been tracking it for 5-6 years. They have 12 long-term producers. If you don't know Rick Clark, Google him. Ohio State's been doing an 8-week series. He presented 2 days ago. Exceptional. One of the very best I've ever heard in economics, nutrients, changing things. Colorado is probably the best with policy and organization. I've been participating in their group, and actually some of my information on this is from their presentation last week. They know water quality and quantity inside out. They've got 4 core groups, and they've got a tremendous plan. South Dakota, I know Stan's on, is one of the leading in this nation. Minnesota, New Mexico, and many other states. Okay, what are the goals? What are we trying to do? Okay, we tried to mimic what's already in place. So Aaron's talked about these demos where they're on. You can see we've got a pretty big gap in the Northwest, North Central. We need to do a better job across the state of having these projects in this year. We do not want to lose 5 years of data. There's not a plan. We've asked, and we're going to keep working together. And we want to expand this in these 6 regions because water is always going to be a problem. So Bijesh has worked with the MLRAs, and the soil and water is critical. But we want to set up that we work together across the state, but adapting it to your locale. Okay, we just started this spring. Mary's presenting here after lunch. Mary, Gary, and I approached Craig Derrickson, Bragg Sonicson for a state SIG 6 years ago. We set up peer groups. Those have continued to certain degrees. We had our first pilot to continue that beyond those a couple weeks ago. I took a screenshot of a Zoom. You'll see some of the people you know, and we've got other people from out of state. Okay, goal 3. Okay, this is probably the one that has not been tapped on as much. I know Neil Dominy has done a lot of work and others with Norfolk. Basically, we talk to almost every NRD once, some twice. Okay, NRDs, NRCS, Extension, FFA, 4-H, we have to have a plan in the state to develop our next generation of soil health practitioners. Right now, we're just hoping people go into things. We need to draft and develop our best of our best. We did not see that model anywhere in the nation. We have it hopscotch here and there, but we don't have a great plan, and we want to have a better plan how we go about that. So the community colleges are set up with the high schools. When you look at Nebraska's farmer rancher age, and this is actually 2 years old, we have a massive problem. So we want to set up a model in the nation of what we're doing, so then that way we can go about a systemic way with education, junior high. So think of this model and think this through in your neck of the woods, how this will work. We can talk about this here as I get close to the end here. If we could identify internships, jobs, junior high, high school, that kids could have paired up with farmers, ranchers, absentee landowners, NRC, and so forth. Then as they go to college, they would have scholarships, internships. Then as they go beyond college, we have partnerships, mentor-mentees. Then as they go beyond beginning farming, ranching, we have a way that they can go back and do reverse mentoring. We've had several conversations. We've been holding off until things get passed by the unicameral, but we've got some things that we're going to kick off in the very near future. We've never seen that model. This is a top priority to a few of us, but we want to look at that. Okay. Okay, this next one, we met with several key influencers, and I won't get into carbon. I'm not an expert. There's at least 10 carbon programs that we're aware of. If you look at the end of the report, Keith wrote most of that section on carbon. This is the one that we're seeing probably has the most traction. And I didn't go too in depth in this. I didn't want to make this be a carbon talk. But when you're reading Humberto's and Paul's and Jay's, I don't know Jay Norton personally, carbon is very subjective. I know Gary Lessing was kind enough to take 6-foot deep carbon samples from my farm this April. We have not seen many that give credit for past work and continue after you've been doing it. In essence, the Steve Tuckers of the world, they get penalized. The Pat Shoemakers at Ainsworth, who's bone dry. So this is the only one that we have seen that does not penalize what you've done and what you get going forward. Second of all, this is the only one we've seen that directly ties to water quality. So we politically did not include in the report a soil health $5 per acre discount on property taxes or a $5 per acre crop insurance discount. Many of the progressive states, their Department of Ag is the leader in this, and we need our Department of Ag. So this is one of the new ones. It's pretty cool. Each of them have strengths and weaknesses. The second thing that's critical as you get around it for Scottsbluff Gearing, I can only get a little bit of water. How can I raise cover crops or suck my moisture? There's all kinds of ways to measure organic matter and carbon. We need to get into that. So Sky Willis, they're taking some data from one of my fields. I haven't seen it for a while, but when you look into it, there's all kinds of ranges of carbons. So the project that we just talked about across the state, that's where we need consistent effort from farmers, because most farmers will not apply for EQIP or CSP, and they don't want their data to be shared with other groups. So we've approached setting up a carbon co-op, a cover crop co-op. We want to take out the middleman so we can help farmers to get more of the monies to go directly to it, to have better input. Otherwise, the people we really need to impact are not at that table. This dollar figure in acres seems like pie in the sky. Keith met with Google a year ago, January. We've had several other firms that were in holding pattern waiting for us. This is also Ray Ward's. It's 11 cents per acre times 5 years. So roughly, it's not a whole lot of money there as we look at it. Okay. So then the last one, Bijesh has already talked about this, and I can't express enough how it's been nice working with Bijesh as we work on it. I come from a teaching background. I grew up in central Nebraska by Loup City, Ashton, where we farmed. And then we lost our farm in the 70s for a variety of reasons. And we moved to Imperial, and I was really blessed to work with a really sharp guy, Dennis Kuhneman, who started AK Acres Popcorn. He's converted almost all his acres to popcorn out there because he could see water as being an issue. So in education, when you evaluate schools, every kid has a benchmark of reading, writing, so forth. So instead of making every kid get to this level, this is very clever what BJ's just written. You look at the baseline, so every kid starts from their starting point. Every field starts at its starting point. What your baseline is in Garion is going to be totally different than Northeast Nebraska or Southeast Nebraska or Horde soils at York. It's ingenious. So those 6 areas we talked about would be a natural way to help each other, but yet having context of what you're doing. So this group, we want producers driving it. We want producers at the table, but most producers will not take that leadership. There has to be a way to coordinate and plan it. Okay, done here. Okay, we really like, if you haven't had a chance to listen to him, he's just a tremendous professor from Ohio State. He has wonderful writing. He's won many awards last year too. But how can you disagree with this here a little bit? Okay, in wrapping up, we want to work together. There's too many different disparate things going. We want to be deeper, not shallower. We want to be tactical. We've seen too many states make the same mistakes we're starting to make in the state, that they mean well, but we want to go forward. We've talked about economics. UNL is beginning a new Center for Ag Profitability, but you can see we don't have a plan as a state. We've got to get our head around this. Funding, we've given over $100 million from the Water Sustainability Fund in 7 years from Unicare, your tax dollars. We have no metadata. Almost every penny goes to water quality. We're treating the problem after the fact. We've got to do better as a state. There's not enough money. With that, that was the last point I had there, and hopefully allowed a little bit of time for questions here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike.
You're welcome, Vijesh.